Finally, the regime of Bashar al Assad, I'll be serious. After 13 years of brutal civil war and in a lightning fast 11 something days, it appears the regime of Bashar al Assad has finally fallen, ending Assad's 24-year authoritarian rule and the dictatorial dynasty that began when his late father, Hafez al Assad, seized power in a military coup in 1971. Its vanquisher, a fellow by the name of Ahmed al-Shara, Nomdeger Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, who leads the dominant faction in the rebel alliance that toppled al-Assad. But who is this man al-Jolani? Well, he fought US soldiers in Iraq alongside jihad insurgents between 2003 and 2006 and was then incarcerated there for 5 years in detention camps. It was Jolani too who returned to Syria in 2011 to play important roles in the campaigns of both the Islamic State, ISIS, and then Al-Qaeda. It was Jolani who took over the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, and from 2017 imposed his rule on 2 million people in the northwestern Syrian enclave of Idlib. Last month, it was Jolani who launched the rebel coalition dominated by HTS on its blistering 12-day campaign that ended in Damascus on Sunday. He had a 10 million bounty on his head. Now he leads Syria to salvation with his merry band of veteran jihadist fighters. My, how the tables have turned. So what do we conclude about this terrorist/freedom fighter? As arguably the most powerful man in the country, will he help lead Syria to greater freedom and stability or Taliban-led oppression? Well, nobody really knows. The jury's still out on this one, I gotta be honest. Look, there have been some positive signs, namely, he hasn't started killing minorities yet, but it's still early days. We'll have to keep an eye out for this one and hope he sticks to his early messaging. Now, from the victor to the loser, let's have a brief look into al-Assad. Long story short, he was a brutal dictator, much like his father. He managed to cling on to power through more than a decade of civil war by the backing of Russia and Iran, but what sustained Bashar through those years would be his undoing, an essentially failed state heavily dependent on external actors and vulnerable to events, not least Moscow's distraction in Ukraine and the diminishing of Tehran's axis of resistance in the recent decimation of Hezbollah by Israel. Assad crumbled, not just because of a well-planned jihadist campaign, wrote Hassan Hassan, the editor-in-chief of New Lines and a leading expert on Syria, but because 13 years of civil war have left his army a husk and his soldiers demoralized. Syria, the nation, was balkanized by competitive and contradictory Turkish and American protectorates in the north and east of the country, and elsewhere mortgaged to Iran and Russia, which did the heavy lifting in retaking Aleppo and defeating Western-backed rebels in southern Syria. And just so we make clear of Assad's gold-plated dictator status, we have the traditional footage found in all proper revolutions when the peasants storm the palace and uncover all the Lamborghinis and Louis Vuittons. The State Department estimated the net wealth of the Assad family at up to £1.6 billion in a 2022 report to Congress, adding that this remained an estimate due to their extensive collection of family assets that are believed to be spread out and concealed in numerous accounts, real estate portfolios, corporations, and offshore tax havens. Meanwhile, a 2022 World Bank report said 14.5 million people, almost 70% of the population, lived in poverty, while extreme poverty affected 1 in every 4 people in Syria. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. So, even though their liberator is a jihadist, people by and large in Syria are celebrating their liberation, and it is not hard to see why. Footage is constantly being posted from people combing through Sednaya prison looking for long disappeared loved ones. According to Amnesty International, up to 20,000 prisoners were held at Sednaya, most of them imprisoned after secret sham trials that lasted no more than a few minutes. Survivors of the prison recounted brutal daily beatings and torture by prison guards that included rape, electric shocks, and more. Many were tortured to death. Survivors said guards enforced the rule of absolute silence within the prison. If the detainees could not speak, they could at least write. Cell walls were covered in scrawled handwritten messages. Enough already, just take me, one message read. So it's not hard to see why people are hoping now that this cruel despot has finally been overthrown. But what are the major players doing and how are they responding or even engineering developments in Syria? Number one, we have Turkey, the OG Sultan, with the biggest win here since he was directly sponsoring the insurgents. Major objectives, managing to send back the 3 million Syrian refugees they've been hosting for years now. But most importantly, as is always the case with the great Sultan, waging his interminable war against the Kurds. To that end, he's using his main proxy force, the Syrian National Army, to launch an offensive against the Kurds in the north. We have the Americans, the United States, mainly supporting the Kurds in the northeast, which Turkey is at war with and whose policy might soon change with the coming of the Orange King. We'll see how that pans out. Then we have the Puts, caught by surprise here, definitely an L. Number one objective, save the military bases. Israel. They're happy Iran's influence has suffered another big blow, but don't know what quite to make of the new guy in charge, and so have proceeded by doing what they do best. Bomb the shit out of every military installation they can halfway spot in Syria, and also started invading Syria. I don't know, man, I gotta tell you, with how things have been turning out around the globe lately, I just fear placing too much faith on things working out in poor Syria. Nevertheless, at the very least, it's good to see the wanker gone. He's in Moscow, by the way. Putin's probably set up a club for them, all the deposed dictators, so they can all hang out in Moscow and reminisce about the good old times when they ruled over countries, killed anyone who defied them, and drove Lamborghinis.
هات لك واحد لامبورجيني ابو الفوز